Today we have JackS from Overlay Protocol. Hello, JackS.
Hey, Ceazor. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. Let's get right into things. Why don't you give a quick overview, just like a really small introduction of what is the overlay and what is it like? What is the purpose of this protocol?
Yeah, so like the 5-minute pitch is basically overlays a protocol for trading nearly any data stream, long or short, with leverage using price oracles and a native token. And on overlay, the exchange protocol, all profit and loss is denominated in the OVL token. And this OVL token also serves as the native governance token of the protocol, giving basically successful traders more skin in the game and giving token holders the right to propose new markets and determine per market risk parameters, such as trading fees and maximum leverage levels. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's get into some details. Like you say pretty much anything. Can you give us some examples of what kind of things we might be like trading against? Like what kind of things? Do they have to be single things like a yes or no answer, or could they be like gradient and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it'll definitely be more gradient. You can think of us as sort of a similar to, I guess, on the market right now, per protocol or future swap. So we're really only limited by the oracles that we use. So in the beginning, we'll be utilizing Uniswap v3 TWAPs. So basically any of these like large or mid-cap DeFi tokens that have sufficient volume and TVL on Uniswap v3, we'd be able to provide a market for where you could take leverage on these price feeds.
Okay, so how much leverage are we talking about? Like,
initially, probably just anywhere from 1 to 5x, but because of the nature of overlay, where we can basically mint and burn any profit and losses in the OVL token, at the end state, we're hoping to offer, basically unlimited amounts of leverage depending on the market.
Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. Could you do something like I get what you're saying about you're going to use Uniswap. Are you guys researching or thinking about using any other oracles so that you could pull in some like real world data instead of just betting on or cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, for sure. We've spoken with the team at Chainlink, Band, as well as some more of the like niche oracle solutions that are still up and coming, such as Upshot for NFT valuations. So for our standard markets, we'll probably just stick with like the stable price feeds that our team has basically scoped out on Uniswap v3, but we'll also be able to eventually offer experimental markets using something like the Upshot Oracle and enabling folks to trade the price of like a people.
Are there any risks about oracles like being faulty and in trades? Like, are you guys using time-weighted averages, or are you using live feeds, or like, is there any issues with the oracle that could cause some problems for people and so forth?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say for us and a lot of protocols like us, kind of that oracle decision is really key, because implementing a faulty oracle or oracle that is feeding manipulable data could be catastrophic for the whole protocol. So onboarding oracles is definitely something that we're putting a lot of thought into. And initially there will be basically like payoff caps and delays similar to what Synthetix has implemented, just to ensure that no one's going to be able to manipulate the oracle and print a bunch of OVL.
Okay. So now let's get into that idea, because you said, and this is a new idea to me, I haven't heard of any protocols that are actually being completely run by their own token. Generally speaking, they usually use some other token.
Yeah.
You're saying you're using the OVL token, that's your overlay token. Can you explain how this is going to be used to do these kinds of leverage trades?
Yeah, so basically if you take the same model that other protocols have, where maybe it's a 2-token model, such as Perpetual Protocol, and you're using initially like USDC as your collateral. You're locking that up, and then you're able to like take on trades, and they mark the price of your position to your USDC collateral. So here it's the same exact steps, except you're using OVL as your collateral. And now you might be thinking, well, OVL isn't like USDC. It's not pegged to $1. So that means the value of your collateral is volatile or is variable. So that does introduce some more complexity in using the overlay protocol, but we're also going to enable users to basically hedge out the price risk of their OVL collateral, such that like they won't have to worry about the OVL price risk going up and down, and how that affects their original position that they took.
So is there any possibilities of any sort of like liquidations happening because of like a sudden drop in the value of OVL?
Yes, that's definitely possible. And I think what our team is still working on right now is basically implementing like an auto deleveraging feature where the amount of leverage that you have and the amount of collateral you have will go down in tandem, instead of you being liquidated like right when your OVL collateral value goes down because of a price dump.
I see. So is there any way for like people to use the OVL token just to like maybe invest, like maybe some sort of staking or some sort of like providing like liquidity to like traders, or some sort of way that someone who's not a trader could still use their OVL tokens to gain some yield?
Yeah, in our current plan right now, we're waiting most of the rewards that the protocol will generate, both through just like inflationary rewards for liquidity and also trading fees. We're looking to direct most of those rewards towards OVL ETH liquidity providers, just because we think that OVL ETH liquidity is really the lifeline of the protocol. And without OVL ETH liquidity on something like Uniswap, we wouldn't be able to offer OVL ETH as a price feed. And if there's no OVL ETH price feed, then you won't be able to hedge out the OVL price risk when taking positions on other price feeds. So we're going to focus most of the rewards for OVL ETH LPs, but it's kind of my push internally to get the team to also adopt something similar to basically curve lockups for single asset OVL. So locking up OVL to essentially earn additional LP rewards and also have additional voting power and governance power.
Okay, how about I presume that there's both, you can bet on both exposure of a single asset going up or down. Like what are some of the proposed markets that you plan on allowing to be traded? Like which tokens are you guys going to launch with or try to focus on first?
Yeah, so as of right now, the three that we're looking to launch with are OVL ETH, ETH DAI, and OVL DAI. So, and it's kind of a triangle approach, because this way you'll be able to hedge out the price of OVL and also bet on the price of ETH, essentially, with leverage. And kind of a cool thing with the overlay platform too is similar to BitMEX, there's a funding rate that incentivizes basically balance on the exchange between longs and shorts. So users will be able to earn yield on their ETH, on their OVL, and on their DAI initially with these three markets by like taking a position to basically just earn that funding rate when the markets are out of balance. And there's, for example, more longs than shorts. You go short and you earn the funding rate.
Oh, I see. So you're trying to incentivize the pool to not be so lopsided. Like if everybody's going long, you want to incentivize some people to go short by giving them some funding bonuses, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the funding rate on some of the other perpetual protocols right now incentivize like the price on their virtual AMM to go in line with the index price, right? The price actually on the market. For us, it's a little bit different because there's no like virtual AMM. It's the funding rate is just to incentivize balance between the outstanding longs and the outstanding shorts. So you could say the open interest long and the open interest short.
Okay, when someone opens a position in, do they get an NFT into their wallet? Do they get an ERC20 token, or do they get some sort of holding inside their wallet that they can see and know that they have this position inside there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So with Overlay, when you build a position and you lock up your OVL, you choose your leverage level, and you build the position, you pay the gas fee, you're going to get a ERC1155 NFT in return. And this NFT, you'd be able to sell it on secondary marketplaces like Rarible or OpenSea, or use like other like peer-to-peer NFT trading tools to essentially sell your Overlay position to someone.
Got it. Are there any maturity dates or any kind of expiration dates on open positions?
No. So these would be essentially like I compare Overlay to kind of like a rough perpetual swap protocol, because we're not going to have like all of the bells and whistles that a centralized exchange can offer you, but it is going to be a way more just this decentralized approach to the perpetual swap problem.
Maybe you can speak a little bit about governance. What are some of the rights that people will have as a governance participant? Like, what kind of choices can they make?
Yeah, so there's going to be more to come on that later, because a lot of the OVL token holder governance rights will not be, I guess you could say, activated until the system proves stable enough. Let's say in like the first 1 to 3 months of going live with the protocol, the core team just wants to make sure that we're not introducing a bunch of new markets that suddenly prints OVL to oblivion, and like the protocol blows up. So once the protocol proves to be stable with the 3 markets that we launch with, OVL token holders are going to be able to, like, as I said before, vote in new markets, decide on different leverage amounts, decide on different fee amounts per market, and a bunch of other things that will be introduced later on as well.
Okay, I was reading through one of the articles on the Medium, and it's a little bit dated, but it was saying that you guys are planning to open some not farming, but like, what's the first steps of the protocol launching? Like, what can a user, if a user wanted to get in as early as possible, what would be the first things he could do?
Yeah, so as far as like, I guess, liquidity incentives go, as soon as we launch, users would be able to LP for 3 pairs to earn OVL rewards, and those 3 would be OVL ETH, OVL DAI, and ETH DAI. Beyond that, we're also working right now with the Prime DAO team to potentially do a small public distribution prior to launch, basically right before launch, through the Balancer LPB V2, I believe. Prime DAO is building an interface for that, and we're seeing if we could potentially be one of the first projects to use that, just as per protocol use Balancer LPB V1 to do their public token distribution. And beyond the token distribution and just yield farming, users can also join us in Discord, because we have a kind of an open contributor program going on. If users were to contribute to anything on the technical, community, marketing side, basically anything, we're granting them Overlay contributor NFTs right now that will be redeemable for goodies later on once we're launched.
Okay, there's an important thing that I really want to dig into deep here, and I think listeners would really need to understand this, and that is the idea of how the Overlay token is used to allow these positions to go as high as possible. Like, there's some other derivative exchanges where they cap off the amount of profit you can make, whether it's long or short or whatever, right? How is this OVL token? How is it actually functioning? Like allowing you guys to like really open up this like derivatives and allow it to just go to the moon basically if somebody's position is just going up, 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 up. Like explain why there's not a liquidity issue or a liquidity problem for overlay.
Yeah, so basically with overlay, because OVL is the settlement currency of the protocol, and the protocol is able to mint and burn overlay as needed. So the OVL token has elastic supply. Overlay replaces the liquidity problem that many perpetual markets or prediction markets have, with instead like a local inflation problem, where if all traders are extremely profitable and they just keep winning, there is an inflation issue where we are going to print too much OVL and people are going to dump that OVL for ETH. So the difference between overlay and a lot of these other protocols is basically taking this risk of inflation and then getting rid of the liquidity issue that the other protocols face, because every passive OVL token holder that isn't trading or LPing is basically taking the other end of all trades occurring on the protocol.
Okay, I get it. I get it. You've basically, there has to be some sort of risk, right, in the protocol or in the supplier, or someone has to take on the risk when someone takes a leverage position and goes long on something. There has to be the other side, right? So in this case, you guys have taken it as an inflationary risk instead of the liquidity pool risk person. So the user who provides liquidity to a pool, they don't have this risk because you guys are going to cover the risk with inflation and it's likely that it's going to balance out in the long run because there's quite a few losers and winners when it comes to trading, right? But not everybody wins, right? Mm-hmm. But I see that. Yeah. Do you guys have any sort of like plans or mechanisms in place or any ideas about to try to control the price of overlay? Like, are you guys going to burn tokens or maybe like an algorithmic stablecoin type idea, like mint tokens to try to bring the price down or anything like this? Or is this just like me just dreaming? Like I didn't read anything about this. I'm just wondering, is there anything like this?
No, you're definitely on the right track. Like internally, we've talked a lot about different mechanisms that would act as insurance against what we call like the death spiral for the OVL token. And different ideas have been thrown around. We share some of the same advisors as the FAE team. So we've talked about, like you said, like something like protocol controlled value, where maybe the overlay protocol can perform certain either on-chain or OTC things to help with the price of the OVL token. But currently, we want to just kind of rely on like natural market forces and see if the protocol can survive on its own through mechanisms built in already. And that will be mostly through, like you said, burning of the tokens through fees. So there will be a trading fee for building and for building positions and unbuilding positions or taking profit on overlay. And that fee will be taken in the OVL token and burned as well.
Sorry, I was thinking about my next question, and sorry, but did I just hear that you said that like when someone takes profit, let's say I have a position, let's say I opened a position long ETH and ETH went up and I decided to take it out and I would get a whole bunch of OVL tokens. And then when I take those OVL tokens, there would be a small fee, and that fee would be used to buy, or at least it would be part of the OVL tokens, and they would just burn those OVL tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is there any kind of how are you guys planning to what's the word I'm looking for? Cover the costs of overhead. Like you guys are working, so you need a salary. You need to do servers. You need to hire people to do things, or whatever it be, marketing, or build a website, or any of these things. How are you guys funding this?
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to basically raise a round with some great backers. We raised a round led by Polychain, And some of our other investors include 1KX, Parify, the Lao, and Metacartel. As of right now, Overlay is a core team of 6, mostly devs. I'm essentially the one non-technical hire, along with one of our co-founders that does more of the design, UI, UX stuff. Everyone else is an engineer, including one of the newest additions to the team is our lead Solidity dev. He's the co-founder of Shell Protocol, James Foley.
Okay, so you guys have a treasury to pay for the overhead costs currently, right?
Yeah. So there is a legal entity currently that is helping with like setting everything up, getting auditors and whatnot. But we do plan to transition to DAO first as soon as possible after lunch.
Yeah, that leads me to another question. I haven't seen anything about this yet. Do you guys have any auditors lined up? Are you in conversations with any specific auditing companies and so forth?
Yeah, we're talking with the guys at Coderino to set something up, and also some of the more traditional auditors like QuantStamp and Trail of Bits.
Okay, the user interface, is it going to be very straightforward? Like, are you guys going to provide graphing systems, or are you going? Most traders, they tend to use their own graphing systems, but I'm just wondering, are you guys going to have graphs and all kinds of like layouts, or is it going to be very easy and straightforward, kind of like a Uniswap interface, something very straightforward in that sense?
Yeah, we're going for a default straightforward interface similar to that of Uniswaps with like opt-in complexity, so to speak. So you'd be able to like click a little plus button to pull in like additional graphs or data that you do want to see. But by default, it is going to be kind of bare bones and just here, what price feed do you want to bet on? Choose your leverage, put in the amount of overlay you want to lock up, and that's it.
Okay, so when you lock up some overlay tokens, is there any kind of time lock on this? Like, is there any way, like, could I lock up and then immediately unlock, or is there some sort of degrading like fee for the longer you lock, or anything like this?
No, nothing like a fee degrading lockup for the positions themselves. But I will say that kind of as a mechanism to prevent like TWAP attacks, or basically just prevent or patch any vulnerabilities that would be possible in our current Oracle price design. We basically queue trades to be entered between Oracle updates. And like this timer is currently adjustable. I'm not quite sure where it's going to be at launch. It'll be probably anywhere between like a minute to a block, so 15 seconds.
So can a user call this before they like? Is there going to be any feature where they could call an update to the Oracle and then immediately? I guess 15 seconds is not very long to wait, anyways. But I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so there will be a feature for users to call the Oracle update, and users that like do that manually for that market will be awarded some predetermined amount of OVL as well.
Can you think of anything that we haven't really covered that's really important? I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. But maybe if you can think of anything, I might come up with some stuff.
No, I think we covered most of everything at a high level. I would just say that there is a lot more like complex math that goes behind overlay that I'm probably not the best person to speak on. One of our co-founders, Michael or Adam, would be better to speak on that. And that's where most of the work is happening, and why we've taken a bit longer to launch as well, just because of kind of the more intense math that goes behind creating overlay.
Yeah, of course. I'm not the type of person. I'm not the kind of person that should be asking those questions anyways. My math is terrible, so
Same here.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we'll have another person get in with your boss there, your developers, and ask those deeper math questions and stuff like that, because yeah, it's too much for me to worry about.
Yeah, sounds good.
Can I ask you why, like, you joined this team, right? Are you a a derivatives trader? Like, what brought you to this? Like, why did you decide, this is good, I want to get in on this. Like, this is great. Like, are you your friends, or are you a derivatives trader, or like, what sort of thing really sets this aside and makes it worth your time?
Yeah, so prior to Overlay, I was working full time at Trust Token. They were the creators of TUSD, the stablecoin. And after Trust Token, I became kind of a full time yield farmer for a little bit, and actually had gone quite high up the rankings for the Atomic Blue DGen score. And that's kind of how I got in touch with the guys at Overlay, because they kind of pitched the protocol to me as like, like a DeFi degen's paradise where you could bet on anything and get paid in the token, in the governance token of the protocol, and then become a governor of the protocol. And that was just really interesting to me, because it combined both aspects of things like synthetics, and also aspects of like a algo stablecoin, which I'm familiar with just through like personal usage.
Yeah, I understand what you mean about, like, any yield farmer that hasn't touched an algo stable coin is not quite any yield farmer, right? You got to get in there a little bit and play around, right? They're just too wild, right? You got to
exactly.
You got to be careful too on those. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I'd like to see some more interesting markets in the future. But I think you're right. You got to start with the steady, like the stuff that's traded, the stuff that's going to get volume, the stuff that's going to perform and be controllable and dependable, right? So I think ETH DAI and ETH overlay and then DAI overlay is a good choice in a sense. And you're kind of getting double benefit there, because then you're getting governance token liquidity depth as well as trading. So it's kind of doing two things at the same time, which is pretty interesting, which is clever, right?
Yeah. And one thing to add, Ceazor, before I forget, that there is like, how we talked about the funding rate and the ability to basically earn yield through the funding rate on overlay by taking like the opposite side of a lopsided market.
Yes.
We're also going to do something called Magic ERC20s, and those are just like tokenized funding trades that anyone can take to earn more yield, just making it easier for users to like take these quote unquote complex trades. Because of the critical role of the funding rate in Overlay's architecture, we want to use these like market magic contracts that automate entering the funding trade positions. And then more users taking this trade through these like magic tokenized contracts will also bring more stability and volume to the system. Kind of how like the ribbon vaults have really driven volume for the underlying options protocols like Open.
Okay, let me see if I understand this. So let's say everybody's going long on ETH versus overlay, right? So you guys want people to fill up the overlay side a little bit, so that you want people to maybe go short on ETH, or go long on overlay versus ETH, right? So these magic tokens, are they going to be a separate market that people can just quickly buy, or are we talking about some sort of simple UI or a contract that quickly just zaps into that position? Like, I'm a little bit foggy on what you mean by these magic token contracts. Like,
so it would be the latter. So you would just be able to zap into these positions.
Oh, I see. So you don't. Yeah. I get it. So if I were to go to, let's try to, like, without using complex math, let's try to explain to me. Let's say I have like $1,000 worth of overlay tokens, and I want to go let's just use an easy number, 2x on ETH. What would I be doing? Like, how would I be going to 2x on ETH with like my $1,000 worth of overlay tokens? What would actually be the process be? Like, what would I be buying, or what would I like? How does you understand what I mean? Can we try to like break down the system?
Yeah, sure. So I guess if you to make it easier with nominal numbers, if you locked up 1,000 OVL and then you went 2x on the price of ETH, and let's say the ETH price went up, I don't know, like 25%, but you had 2x leverage, so 50%. So then you just made 50% more of the OVL that you had locked up. So instead of 1,000 OVL now, the system is going to print you 500 more OVL and add it to your balance. So you have 1,500 OVL if you were to unwind your position. So burn your ERC 1155 and receive your OVL collateral back.
Okay, I think I understand it. Yeah, I think I was a little bit confused when we were talking about the 3 LPs. You're basically, you want to incentivize these LPs so that they are deep, right? However, when somebody comes to the UI, they just basically stake or lock up OVL tokens. You guys quote them a value of that OVL token based on the 3 pool. Well, there's only 2 pools, based on the 2 pools, right? A US dollar value, I guess, right? And then you can then, the person can then get an NFT token, which is not tradable anywhere, right? Like the NFT, like if you did a 2x ETH, this is not a token that I could take somewhere and trade it, right? I guess it's an NFT, so I could sell it to somebody, but it's not ETH, right? So it doesn't actually interact with those LPs, right? It's just an NFT that says you're long on this, and if you bring it back and you are in profit, then we will give you more OVL tokens.
Right. So the NFT is only relevant to your position on overlay and not to any underlying liquidity provider positions on Uniswap v3.
Yeah, okay. I have a clear understanding of how it's working now. Yeah, I think this pretty much covers it. I think I've got a good understanding of what's going on. Like I said, if there's anything you want to add in, just go ahead, and if not, I guess we can just cut it off here.